Hello, hello. Hey, everybody. My name is Teese, and I am the host of Woke Wednesday. Welcome. Woke Wednesday is an urban tea series that explores relevant topics of discussion to help us to stay woke. That means remain current and informed, or to get woke, to learn something new, to gain a new perspective on what's happening in our world, in our communities, in our personal lives in order to become healthy, happy, and whole. So, in this episode of Woke Wednesday, I speak with personal and professional relationship coaches, specialists, and otherwise well versed experts on the topic of toxic relationships. They will share with us most immediately what it is and how we find ourselves in these situations, but more broadly, how we can come from under them and really get back to start on the path to total self love. So this show is being offered in partnership with Onondaga Community College. I am very thankful for this partnership and this collaboration because the topics that are important and relevant to the student body there are also relevant to the broader community in which they want to hear about these things as well. We're talking about what we want to hear, what they need to hear, and what our community wants to learn about. So before we get started, I want to thank everyone for being here. I asked you to share, start a watch party, otherwise be engaged, send your questions, your comments, and even emojis uh, as we go along. We want to make sure that we are sharing the information that you want to hear about. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. I want to start with brief introductions, and I'm going to ask Dr. Michelle, would you start us off?
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Michelle R. Hanna, and I help singles and couples emotionally heal, connect deeper through intimacy, and ultimately live authentically. So, I'm actually a personal and business relationship coach. So, I do help businesses, which I'm really proud about because a lot of small businesses during this pandemic really just went through a lot of challenges. So, I have been able to definitely coach them so that they can pivot, and just get out of the mindset of doing it the same way that you've always done it, and literally moving your business online and just teaching them how to scale their business and overcome all the challenges that we were all faced with during this pandemic. So yeah, so that's what I do. And I'm in California. I live in sunny California.
And it's a beautiful day there. Actually, in upstate New York, it's actually pretty nice today too, although I don't know what it's going to be like tomorrow. So,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, so we're going to continue on with the ladies. Patricia, how about you?
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Patricia Shaw, Christian relationship coach, and I help lead women to their definition of relationship success so they can find rapture in the warm embrace of love rather than fear it. See, I understand that relationships have the ability to raise us up and elevate our being to new heights, but only if they are entered into with readiness and intention. So the scope of my work comes down to empowering Christian women in different ways. Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Dr. Patricia. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit about what you do. Now, I've talked in some capacity with each of you for the most part, but I'm still learning, learning so much. So thank you for sharing that. How about you, Greg?
Hey, how you all doing? Good evening. My name is Greg Brown. You can find me at Greg is Speaking. I'm a transparency coach, working under the tutelage of Dr. Michelle R. Hanna. I coach men to have healthy relationships and become more vulnerable and transparent with themselves as well as in their relationships. And I help them to evolve and be more present and increase their happiness and fully embrace who they are and fully embrace love. In the process, right now, I'm actually in the process of having my book edited. It's titled Love is the Agenda, and it should be out this summer, maybe end of the summer, early fall. But I'm just here to help me and become better persons, better spirits, and to try to heal some of the trauma that we deal with that affects our relationships with the women that we love.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to have your perspective on and for this conversation because it's critical. I mean, we can talk in a vacuum ourselves, right? But it's so important that we open it up to our counterparts and male counterparts as well, because there's a very valid and critical perspective that should be shared there as well. So thank you for being here. Let's jump right in. Yeah, let's jump right in. So I want to just briefly, maybe from each of you or a couple of you, I want to ask the question of what does a toxic relationship look and feel like? What are the major signs? And the reason I'm asking that question because some of us don't know. And some of us are in the middle of toxic relationships and are not realizing that we are, and that is something that is not normal, and something that we may want to either make some changes for or find our way out of. So let's just start very basic at the top of what is a toxic relationship.
I feel like it's the betrayal of self, is the betrayal of being authentic. It is also, it feels foreign. On the other hand, if you are toxic along with the toxic person, then it may not feel so foreign. It may feel like home, and that's not a good thing, but that is just the truth of it. And I would say that it also operates at a very low frequency. We want to operate on a higher frequency. We want to operate at a higher vibration. We want to be connected to our spirit, to our core, and follow that inner compass, our inner GPS, and when we are operating different from that, it becomes a struggle. And it doesn't feel comfortable. It doesn't feel like home, So I feel like that's a very simple way of thinking about toxicity.
Before we get anybody else to chime in on that, I heard something you said, that you mentioned that it may not just be the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you may be in a toxic relationship where you're exhibiting that toxicity yourself and contributing to it. So that was one thing. But the other thing, that I heard you say was that, this feeling that we have, we might sense it. We might think something is just quite not right, but we can't put our finger on it. So I think it can be maybe not a major sign, but subtle things that our intuition may be telling us as well.
And then sometimes it can be a major sign.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's very clear that, this is toxic. If someone is physically abusing me, if they are calling me out of my name on a consistent basis, if they never support my visions, and my dreams, right? And they're doing the negative, even self-talk to themselves and negative self-talk to you. So sometimes it can be very obvious. But I think you really have to pay attention to the subtle toxicity that comes out in a relationship, because sometimes we can overcompensate for that other person. Oh, they were just having a bad day. Oh, they just been through things, in their background. And I have to understand that they've been through a lot of trauma. I'm not saying to not be empathetic, but when it causes you to start questioning your healthy on an everyday basis, then I think that we have to take a deeper look in terms of choosing ourselves instead of choosing the other person's happiness that might be our unhappiness.
I don't know if anybody else wanted to chime in on that just really quickly. Otherwise, I can move on to the next question.
I was thinking anytime someone is looking for the other person to complete them in some way, then that's a toxic relationship. When we feel like we need someone else to complete us, then there is something within us that's missing. And when that's missing, it makes creating a healthy relationship almost impossible. So anytime you go into relationship looking for somebody to complete you in some way or the other, then it's going to be a toxic relationship.
I agree. I believe that I totally agree with both of you. I believe that in a relationship, you're choosing to exist in someone else's world. And that world can either be positive, or it could be negative, or it could be toxic. And a lot of times when we step into, someone else's world, we don't know, we assume that this person's world is perfect. It's a new home until we step inside of the door, and then we realize that, hey, there's some things that need to be fixed, but we're inside at that point. And sometimes, it's hard to get out for some people. It's hard to recognize the telltale signs, because a lot of us believe that we have the ability to fix. And some things, we can't fix. Sometimes, the person has to fix themselves, and we'll get caught up into that tangled web. And before we know it, the relationship is toxic because both people are struggling, to find themselves, but I definitely agree with both of you, in that situation. I agree.
Thank you for breaking that down for us. And I mean, there's agreement here, but I also heard different things from each one of you on what it really looks like and feels like to be in a toxic relationship. Now, my next question is on the early stages, because like you said, the major ones are the ones that really, knock you down and really, you notice right away, you know that. But what about those early signs, those subtle hints of something is not quite right? And I'm asking that question because, again, we want to learn something here. We don't want to continue down this path of choosing the wrong partner and getting deeper and deeper into these situations that are just not for us. And so what are those initial early signs and warnings that this may be a toxic relationship?
Lies. Lies, like when you basically you hear something that it just does not jive. That's just not, it's like, you know what, you said that on Tuesday and now you're saying this on Friday, and it just doesn't connect. You know what I mean? Or that person is telling you one thing, but their actions say something totally different, or you realize that they're stuck and kind of feel like you're in a three-way relationship because it's you, the ex, and them, right? So three people are in this relationship because every time you bring up, well, my ex didn't do it that way, or my ex did the same thing that you did and you were triggering me, So those are some of the things that I think that are so common that people can tell, that if something just doesn't seem right, stop trying to convince yourself that you're the one, that maybe it's me. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the person that you're dating and that you don't need to spend a whole lot of time with. That's unnecessary. Because sometimes, and I'm sure that Dr. Patricia could understand this next statement, sometimes your spirit is literally screaming at you. And you just keep saying, oh, calm down, I'm not listening. Let me get this, let me do this over here. Let me have this distraction, or you numb out, or you don't want to be disappointed again because you're like, wow, I don't want to start all over again in another relationship, Or maybe you're at the age where everyone's telling you need to get married, you need to have children, right? So you end up tolerating things that that's not really what you want, and it doesn't feel good. And lastly, I would say, when you know that something doesn't serve you, that's when you have to take a look at self and say, okay, if it doesn't serve me, why am I continuing to engage in this type of unhealthy relationship?
That's true. And I also want to say, when it comes to subtle hints with the beginning relationship, as women, most times we look more than we listen. I'm gonna say that again. We look more than we listen. And we should be listening more than we're looking, as Dr. Michelle just said. When we pay attention to the actions, the follow-up, what is he doing? Not what he's saying, but what is he doing? So we need, as women, to focus more on listening, opening up our ears than looking.
Can I say something about the listening? Dr. Patricia, you just triggered something in me. But can I say something just about the listening part? Listening is so important, especially listening with compassion, listening that is effective, listening with acknowledgement and recapping to make sure you heard what you heard. Because sometimes we will go with what we think we heard or what we wanted to hear, and that wasn't even what he said or what she said, right? And we just go with that. But really listening and recapping so the other person can say, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant was this. And then you can take the next step. Like active listening, like Dr. Patricia was saying, active listening is so important. But sometimes it's like we go with, just like men, in terms of the visual, we see someone, oh my gosh, he's fine, he looks good, and then if he has a personality to go along with that, we're all caught up. And a lot of my clients, I'm like, stop marrying the person in your head on the first date.
Right.
Could this be my husband? How many kids are we going to have? When am I gonna meet his friends? Oh, you can meet mine tomorrow. Like Dr. Patricia says, stop, listen. Listen to the things that, he's saying or even not saying, instead of even talking so much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, I'm listening here. I'm noticing that only the men are toxic. But
no, I said men and women.
No.
Greg, speak on it. Speak on it.
I'm gonna speak from a man's point of view and in a relationship, and because I believe that in relationships, I believe that it takes two, and I do believe that you do have to listen, but I also believe that just like Moses was bad with words, so he had to live by his actions. I think you have to watch someone's actions. You know what I mean? Because sometimes I'm I have a gift of gab. I can step into any room and I can speak to a young lady, anyone. It's a 70-year-old woman in my building who loved me to death because it's, hey, how you doing, beautiful? And she may be 75 years old. But speaking on relationships, as far as the telltale signs, let's just be honest. Most of us are damaged, and that damage starts off from a young age. You know what I mean? It starts off with the first love that we see or feel is either from the presence of our mother, the presence of our father, or from the absence of our mother or father. And then from there, we step into relationships because, if I date a young lady and her mother or her father was absent, immediately she's going to gravitate to me. And at that point, I have the choice to either nurture that love that she's searching for or to manipulate it. And that's what we step into as men and women, because there are women who manipulate men. And we had this conversation, Dr. Michelle. There are women who manipulate men who they know it's like, hey, he looks at me like I'm up here, so I might be able to get a pair of red bottoms or get a trip out of this guy. And then men is like, okay, she's a bit damaged because her father wasn't there or because this person had an alcohol problem or a drug problem. So I can manipulate the situation and help her out a little bit, and I can have her do the sexual things I don't want, or I can have her put this house or car in her name for me. So I believe that a lot of our toxic traits start off young, and then we meet someone, and depending on how that love affects us or hurts us, that adds on to the pain or to the love that we have, and we take that on to the next relationship. And for women, and I'm speaking from a man's point of view, you all fall for it. When you get hurt and you fall forward to something to try to find something better. When men get hurt, we fall backwards and backwards and backwards. So it's harder for us because once we're hurt, we're scared to show our love. You all are searching for it to find that spot to be filled from dad or the ex or whoever. And we're like, hey, I'm not gonna let that happen to me again. So I believe that the telltale signs, I mean, to be honest, I think it's hard to see that because we step into relationships and you don't know someone in the first day, first month, the first 3 months. And nowadays with so much social media, you might not know someone for 3 years. And then you find something out about them. You know, there's people who are finding out so many secrets and relationships and they thought they had the perfect relationship, the perfect marriage, the perfect, everything. And then they found out 3 years later that, hey, this person had an entire different relationship with a man or a woman. You know what I mean? This person had other kids they didn't tell me about. This person was impotent. This person was this. They didn't tell me these things. So it's difficult to find out what's truly toxic without giving it time. But the core of it is that we're damaged and a lot of us need to heal in order to be able to step into these relationships to prevent them from being toxic. Because that's the problem. We're stepping into these relationships damaged. And if I can't deal, if I have loyalty issues because of what I saw from women growing up, or because of what I saw from men growing up, then I'm not going to trust the woman I'm in a relationship with. And this is a true story. I've always struggled with that because I saw the movement of relationships where there was disloyalty. So anytime there was a situation going on, I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know, what is this? What is that? And that's something that's internal with me. And I'm bringing that toxic part of me that's from childhood into a relationship as a grown man. You see what I'm saying? So it's difficult, but I think the healing has to start with someone, and maybe it's with Dr. Patricia or Dr. Michelle, but I think it starts with self, but that's just my piece. I don't think it's all men either.
No, it goes both ways. And I'm so glad that you brought out, so we're saying listening, but we're also saying watch those actions too.
Yes, indeed.
If you come across somebody that is super charismatic, can talk you into a corner that you can't get out of, that listening might not be what you want to do. You might want to be saying, well, your actions are not matching what you're saying.
Yes, indeed.
You have to realize, I guess, the position that we're in, the situation that we're in, and sort of kind of try to read people as much as we can. Yeah, for sure. I want to ask though, this next question, and you touched on it a little bit, Greg. And this question is about targeting, to be honest. Okay. It is about, are men targeted based on behavioral types, based on status or situation? And I'm asking that question because I feel like I sometimes see it's a little bit of a trend with women and men getting into situations that are toxic from the outside looking in. So I'm just wondering, from your perspective, do you think that happens, or is it just sort of a random thing that I'm just hooking up with whoever I'm hooking up with?
No, I definitely think that men and women are targeted. I definitely believe that the more you have a certain, class of men that may have a busier DM or private messaging than some other men may have, as well as you have other women. And sometimes it's targeted because of your popularity, because of your looks, because of what people post. In my side of the world, to speak personally, when people log onto my page and they see where I live or how I travel or how I dress or what I have on my popularity, it brings in a lot of I don't know. I'll just say a lot of suitors, suitresses that have no idea who I am. They don't know if I'm a good guy, bad guy. They don't know what really my motive could be. And in that moment, if I was a person that wanted to pull out, and target you, it's like, oh, okay, well, I know that's an easy lay. That's an easy picture. That's an easy, whatever I choose, for it to be, 9 times out of the 10, depending on the woman, because she's caught up in something that's nothing of who Greg truly is. She's caught up into everything on the outside. And Greg on the outside looks great. It's like, okay, he seems like he has it all together. But Greg on the inside is someone who's been trying to heal himself, because Greg, on the inside was damaged for many years and didn't know how to maintain relationships, didn't respect relationships, didn't respect himself. So he was doing things outside of his relationships that he shouldn't have been doing. But I definitely think that men are targeted. I think that women are targeted. And I think that sometimes, it's natural, especially for men. We're natural predators. So if I see a pretty girl, a man sees a pretty girl, it's like, okay, I'm gonna step to it just because I think that she has a nice figure, or she has a nice job, or a nice car, or I like her hair, or eyes are pretty, or pretty smile. And I believe women have their own, things that they do that, as well. But yes, we do target it. Long story short, we definitely do. All of us.
But what's interesting to that though is that because and I totally believe that we men and women target each other. But I think also what we have to take into just another perspective is that Greg is, and I know he doesn't mind me sharing this, but Greg is at a point in his life where he is no longer subscribing to being that kind of brother that just looks at the woman because of how she looks and whatever she has, and just to boost his ego. Greg is celibate, and so he's in his action. He's basically already letting you know that I respect myself. It's a privilege, to get into bed with me, and that is for my wife. I mean, and I'm speaking for him because I know that that's how he feels. So at the end of the day, what's wonderful is that he's now on the opposite of being the toxic person. Now he totally changed his life around, and he really has so much information to give us because, he's done exactly what we talk about and we warn women, about, but he's now on the other side of that. So those women that are in his DM, that whatever toxic, whatever they're throwing his way, right? Because of the positivity that he has within and the path that he's on, he's not subscribing to participating in the toxic behavior as well.
Yeah, and this is true. I was a target, a big target. I am a retired music executive. I had a lot of records on radio, nationally, regionally, and overseas. And it had me in position to live a very celebrity style lifestyle. I hosted shows with Diddy, T.I., Outkast, anybody, Rick Ross toured with him, etc. So I was out there, you know what I mean? So, but at this point in my life, looking at myself and looking how I was a toxic person in a relationship. I was a womanizer, a lot of different things, and it brought me just self-reflecting and then getting help and seeing it, which is why I'm stepping in and try to coach men to become more transparent and vulnerable, because that's really the issue. We don't feel like we can be vulnerable and really speak about what's going on. So now I'm in a place in my life where I'm intentional. My dating is intentional dating. As Dr. Miles Monroe said, and it's a process that I am happy with right now. So I took myself off from being a target for any woman to step in, because before I would have been like, oh, come on, the more the merrier, but now it's a different thing. And you see things clearer. You want to really love and love yourself, so before I can love a woman, fully, I have to love myself fully. And I can't do that by targeting women. So yeah, definitely. But that's it.
All right, so we got to love ourselves before we can fully love others. It brings me to the next question that I have on how do we get here? And I have a feeling it has something to do with that. It has something to do with how we love ourselves, how we treat ourselves, and where we came from. So talk to me a little bit about how we're vulnerable to toxic relationships and why that is.
I think it's a lack of, I know it is. I know it's a lack of self-love, and it's also a lack of self-care. In addition to that, it's a lack of being really self-aware. And, self-love, that's my thing, that's my jam for real, is self-love, self-care. That is what I live my life by. If you are in my circle, which I call it circle of love, you know, you are definitely committed to self-love and self-care, and they are different. And so I'd like to ask your audience, like, do you spend time with yourself? Do you go to dinner? I know we're in COVID or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, do you really go to dinner by yourself? Do you walk on the beach by yourself? Do you take a walk by yourself? Do you just sit with yourself? Or is it uncomfortable for you? Because sometimes people need someone else, or they think they do, to do everything with. They couldn't ever even think about going to a movie by themselves. So the first thing is that if you don't even spend time with yourself, why is it that you think that someone else is going to break their neck to spending time with you? If you don't even know what you need and what you like to do and what brings you joy, right? Then why are you going to be mad at the other person that doesn't do those things for you? Buy your own flowers. I love flowers. And, you know, my husband buys them to me, but I don't wait on that. If I feel like I want fresh flowers, I go and buy myself fresh flowers. You know, I spend a lot of time with myself. That's how I become self-aware. That's how I hold myself accountable, and not just blaming everyone else for why you act and why you say the things that you do, or even limited beliefs, you know? And I do really feel that a lot of times people get in toxic relationships, it's because of their self-concept from when they were, you know, we could take it back to 5 years old, and their self-concept started to develop. And then they started to believe that self-concept, whether it's negative or whether it's positive. And if you had any trauma at 5 years old, and then, you know, have you ever been in an argument or a debate with someone that you were in a relationship with, and you're like, why are you so immature? Why are you responding like a 2-year-old? You know, well, whatever you're speaking about, well, maybe he is responding from a place of 2 years old that was not healed. And so you're talking to the 2-year-old that wasn't healed. And you're talking to someone that's thinking from that perspective. Now, I'm over exaggerating it, but you know that whenever we have received trauma in our life, if that is not healed, we will respond, if triggered, from that perspective. So that's why I think self-love and self-care is so important. If we don't make the list daily, but everybody else makes the list, and we don't make our own list, something's wrong with that. Because we should always make the list to spend time with ourselves and to love on ourselves. Hug yourself, mwah, kiss yourself, you know. And I know people are like, that's weird. Why is it weird? If you want somebody to kiss you and you want somebody to hug you, but you can't do it to you, I think that's toxic.
Yes, I just want to add something. How do we get to these vulnerable relationships and end up in a toxic relationship? If you ask yourself, when you start dating, have you seen what a healthy relationship looks like? A lot of times we get into dating relationships having never even seen what a healthy relationship looks like. And I'm speaking from my own experience. I wrote a book, Soul Ties Unchained My Heart. And in that book, I share a story about being in a toxic dating relationship. And forget the self-care, because nowadays people think it's about the lips, the hips, and the fingertips. It has nothing to do with those things. Self-care is about who I am, regardless of what anybody says. So we end up being vulnerable and susceptible to these toxic dating relationships because, first of all, most of us grew up not even seeing what a healthy relationship looks like. And I'm gonna stop right there.
You don't gotta
Do you feel, Dr. Patricia? Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to ask Dr. Patricia something, but go ahead.
I was just saying, you ain't got to stop, Dr. Patricia. My ears are wide open.
I want to hear what Greg has to say.
No, I mean, honestly, I think you all, summed it up. That's the truth. You love, like, love starts, at home. How we love someone else is how we love ourselves. If we're not loving ourselves correctly, it's impossible for us to love anyone else in a proper way and form. So, I 100% agree with you, ladies.
Go ahead, Dr. Michelle. I know you wanted to get in there.
No. I just wanted to ask a question in terms of vulnerability, because it comes up a lot. Actually, when I first met Greg, vulnerability was like the worst word that I could ever say to Greg, because he was just, he was very respectful. But I know that the eye roll, was like, psh, I'm not weak, because that's what he really felt, right? Until he really figured out how to define vulnerability for himself. But what I wanted to ask Dr. Patricia was that, do you think that in terms of vulnerability, that specifically women, but definitely men too, that women do need to be very particular in terms of who and what that they give their vulnerability to?
I do think women should be very particular as to the type of person they get in a relationship with. First of all, the word says to guard your heart. And that's our mind, our inner thoughts, all of that, guard your heart. So my one thing that I notice with a lot of the women I work with is they have no type of requirements, I guess I want to say. They don't really define what they want in a person, in the person that they want to. And I heard Greg said, you choose to spend time, you choose to spend your life with this person, but yet you have not even defined the type of person you want to spend your life with. So if you have not defined what you're looking for, you are always going to get what you don't want. So yes, we do have to guard our hearts, guard our minds as women, because as Greg said, back in the day, he was, whatever he was doing. And my husband, men chase, and they chase really the loose women. And I'm not trying to, say that in a negative way. They chase the loose women, because women that have standards, they have defined the type of person they choose to spend their life with.
Indeed, I agree. I want to chime in on that part. I will say this, I do believe that what you're saying is 100% right. But I also believe that, and we do chase the loose ones. But as we said, as you talked about targeting, we do target the good girls too. You know what I mean? It's, I mean, that's the ultimate goal. I think that what you're saying is right. You do have to guard your heart, guard your spirit, guard your mind, guard your body. And I think a lot of that comes with time. And I think that's why I failed at. And I think a lot of people fail at that is because we're rushing into relationships. We're rushing past relationships because we're rushing straight to sex. You know what I mean? And so when you rush straight to sex before you learn someone, you've already rushed to a toxic situation, because you don't know anything about them, but you interlock your everything, your mind, your body, and your spirit together with something that you have no idea what they're bringing, whether it's it's past childhood trauma or adult trauma or whatever it may be. You've locked yourself into that. So I think it all comes down to time. And until we start giving time, we're going to continue to repeat these cycles, because everything is fast. Everything is microwave. It's not even microwave. Everything is Grubhub and Instacart now. We passed that. We were microwave. Now, the younger, they're Instacart. You know what I mean? So that's their relationship. It's like that, But I do believe you have to guard it, and I believe that, ladies, you have to start policing your own. You know what I mean? I understand that, men, we all, we're gonna be lions. We're gonna be tigers. But at the same time, you know, if you're co-signing your girl saying, you know what, girl, last night I met so-and-so, we did this and that, you're like, what, girl, tell me, you listen. Even if you listen, and it's kind of like a co-sign. You know what I mean? Even if you're not agreeing, it's still like a, it's still like, I'm with that. Instead of, until, because we're going to do what we're going to do. Yeah. But if we're unable to do it, or visit, it's kind of like, we're standing together for equal rights and feminism and different things of that sort. But we also have to stand together to say, hey, I can't, we gotta. I'm not saluting the slut walk. You know what I mean? I'm not saluting that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going along with that. I'm not going along with, hey, it's okay if you want to go sleep around because that's what you choose to do. Hey, and I'm my only boy, 3 sisters, 16 girl cousins. So I am totally supportive of anything that is involved with my beautiful women. So it's nothing up on that side. I'm just saying that you can't sit back and say it's okay for you to go do this and that. And then, you're mad when somebody comes to sleep with your husband, because you've been co-signing that same type of behavior, But I think it just comes down to time, and as long as if we at time, self-care is time, right? When we give ourselves a facial, we don't just splash water on our face. When you give yourself a facial, ladies, don't you take your time? You in the bathroom maybe an hour. When you go to that spa, you want them to take their time. You don't want them to throw, a couple pills on your eyes and push you out of the room. You take time, and self-care is time. So take time. When you meet somebody, take it with yourself and take it with them. It's like, hey, I don't know you. I told Dr. Michelle this, and I spoke about it before. I told my daughter when she was little, I'm like, hey, you got to protect your $1 million. And she was like, what's your $1 million? And your $1 million is that special part that, men want to get, and it's either it's worth $1 or it's worth $1 million. It's up to you how you want to choose, how you want us to buy it. So, yeah, that's it.
Laughing, Dr. Patricia. Dr. Patricia.
But I agree.
It's real talk.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to read some of the comments that we have here because we have a bunch of comments on the line. And anybody, if you have any questions, definitely drop them in. I have my own questions just based on the research that I've been doing and what I think my community wants to hear about, but I want to hear from you. So definitely let us know if you have questions. Someone said a toxic relationship can destroy a person's inner peace and joy. What peace and joy that person is seeking and needing in their life can be destroyed by verbal abuse or emotional abuse or even spiritual abuse. And then they go on from that. And then, another person said, I've learned to spend time with myself. My alone time will help me to better reflect on my life. And that's absolutely one of the points that was made here tonight. A lot of agreement, a lot of head nods, a lot of exactly I see on here as well. Many people are raised in single parent households, have no point of reference for what a healthy relationship looks like, or a relationship in general. We just have to figure it out. And sometimes we figure it out the wrong way. And that's true talk as well. Someone laughed at the loose women comment. I laughed at that a little bit too. All right, great. So listen, we're going to move on to the next question that I have for you. And this is in relation to what a toxic relationship does to you. So we talked about what it looks and feels like. Maybe it's not quite right. What it might be, right? Early stages, late stages, whether it's small signs or large ones. But why is it a bad thing? Like, what do toxic relationships really do to your self-worth and your concept of self-love? So if I'm in this toxic relationship, what can I expect to happen? What's that relationship like?
I'm gonna jump out here with that toxic relationship and what it does to your self-worth. And I'm speaking from experience. In this dating relationship I was in years ago before I met my husband. And it stole from me my confidence. See, as children, most of us know how to speak up and really talk up for ourselves. But when you've been in a toxic relationship, it steals your confidence so much so that even on the job, when you know that you should be in this particular position, you won't even speak up for yourself. So being in a toxic relationship steals more than your peace. It steals your confidence in all facets of your life. And it also makes you feel like you can't trust other people. So with me, I felt like I didn't know who to talk to when it came to that relationship. But I'm thankful that I had two women who embraced me to help me share what was going on in that relationship so that I could walk out of it.
Chime in on that, just the impact and effect that a toxic relationship can have on you, whether you're in the middle of it or coming out of it.
Well, I mean, I just speak personally, like Dr. Patricia was saying, first and foremost, I just said being a man who has done and has contributed to what Dr. Patricia experienced years ago before her husband. Um, um, you as men, when we're running around and we're cheating or being a Rolling Stone, when you have a woman at home, it can tear her apart because, as Dr. Patricia was saying, she loses her confidence. She loses her confidence in what she is to that man, how she looks, because she's questioning herself against not only women that she may or may not find out about, but she's also in her mind every day of thinking about the women that she hasn't seen. What are they doing? Are they kissing the same? Do they kiss them the same? Do they hold them the same? Do they make love the same? What does he see in her that he doesn't see in me? So it breaks her down physically, but it also breaks her down mentally. And that's something that I've learned, and it's probably something that I carry on for the rest of my life, regretting it was in different relationships, going through that phase of being, of contributing toxic traits, that you break down some individuals to a point to where you can't help them back. And it's hard for people like Dr. Patricia and Dr. Michelle to coach them back because they're trying to find something and fix something that has been damaged. It's a part of them that they didn't even know exists. They didn't know that part of them could be hurt. We know that we can break an arm, we can break a leg, but you don't realize that somebody that you love can break you down to a point that you may not even want to exist on this earth. So, I think what Dr. Patricia is saying, it's true, and again, it's I just want to say myself, to Dr. Patricia, anyone who's looking, just speaking from a man's point of view, I want to apologize because it's not you. It's something that's broken inside of us. And unfortunately it broke you. And it's no apology great enough for that experience, for the person that is going through that toxic relationship and dealing with somebody who is blind to, and sometimes not blind to, what they're inflicting on an individual who they say they love. Then that just comes back to self-care. They're not loving themselves, and if you're not in love with yourself, it's impossible for you to love someone else.
Right. Absolutely.
Wow, that was a whole word. And I know that women, even men that have been hurt, can feel that your words and your honesty and your authenticity in this, right? And being vulnerable yourself in that apology. It was heartfelt, and we all felt that for sure. So thank you for sharing that with us. Let's talk on. So most of my audience is Black and brown people, and so I want to know if you think there's a difference in toxic relationships and people of color based on our unique experience and trauma, specifically in this country. And so I just want to know, is there a different, does it show up differently for us? Is it more or less? Is it different at all? Do you think so?
I think it's different. I definitely do. And I actually think it's very obvious why it's different, when you look at the history, of us. And when I say us, I say African American, even though my father actually, comes from a Puerto Rican heritage, but, we're of color, and what we have had to experience in our pathology has been sometimes just, it's just hard to even fathom that our ancestors, came through that type of abuse. It's definitely more, I feel, traumatic in regards to Black men, because when you can watch your wife be raped in front of you, you know, and then have to still go out in the field and work, you know, you pass that trauma down to your kids, and then they pass it down to their kids. And it goes back to not seeing a healthy relationship, maybe because you could have two parents in the home and still not see a healthy relationship.
True.
You could have two parents that work, they provide, they protect you, but you've never seen them kiss before. You've never seen them hug before. You've never seen them really tell each other you love, you know, they love each other. Maybe they've never even told you. They say, you should know that I do, because I provide for you. I protect you, you know. So with all of that, you know, and then also just where we are right now in our world, you know, it's not that this is something new. It's just that now it's just really out in the open, where we can see how people really do feel, you know. And I think that that puts a certain amount of stress on women, Black women and men, because there are a lot of women that have Black sons, and they are scared to death that their son, when they go out into the world, that they will come back unharmed. So with the stress of that, and then not even knowing how to have a healthy relationship, it definitely is, I feel, more trauma when it comes to women and men of color.
I agree. I believe, you know, I agree with Dr. Michelle. Definitely it's the truth. From the slave trade, Jim Crow, up to the crack epidemic, to now where we're existing, it's definitely, it's ripped apart the dream of living like the Huxtables that we all, you know, grew up watching. And, you know, you see these perfect homes with, you know, the parents, or even just looking at Blackish, you look at these families and you're like, hey, you know, that's the quote unquote picture of what's supposed to be normalcy. And we don't have that. And it does reflect in our relationships and our parents' relationships and our grandparents' relationships of the lack of, as Dr. Michelle said, the lack of hugs and kisses. Or, you know, I've never seen my father hug my mother and kiss her and say, I love you. Or, you know, kids, I love you. So, you know, to grow up and not be able to be transparent and vulnerable, to say that to someone, that was a chore for me, to learn how to tell a woman, hey, you look beautiful today, just for no reason. Or, hey, you know, I love you. Or, you know, let me give you a kiss this morning, you know, because you didn't experience it. So, you know, our trauma, I believe, is different. You know, I think that it will always be different, you know, but, you know, unless you get into different things of, you know, trauma with women, you know, who've been assaulted or raped or molested, then, you know, that's a different story, because women as a whole are, you know, deal with that. But yeah, as far as, you know, as far as us as people of beautiful color, yeah, it's been the experience has been snatched away from us, you know, a long time ago, and we just have to try to rebuild it. And rebuilding it's going to take time.
Yeah, that generational trauma, man, permeates so many aspects of our lives. I have several of these conversations, and very many of the topics still come back to challenges of racism. And in fact, when I hosted the Black Love conversation in February, where I had 4 beautiful Black couples on and talking about their experiences and the love that they share, the biggest thing that they said as an issue or as a challenge for them was external to them, and it was racism. It was racism, and each of those couples could identify with that, and bringing that home, you know, having to go out into the world and then bring that home into their relationships where, you know, they do have extra stress. There is another emotional level or layer of concern and of issue or of cloudiness that we face as a result of that. So thanks for sharing, sharing that with us. I mean, I suspected that might be the case, but of course wanted to hear from the experts what you thought about that as well.
But I also think we have to have accountability though, too, in the sense of, okay, but where do we go from here? How do we create a healthy environment for our relationships, teaching our young girls, our young boys, especially that, just because you get hurt and you start crying. And I remember I have a brother and my mom would say, big boys don't cry. And, I cringe when I think about that because, why can't he cry? Why am I allowed to cry, but he's not allowed to cry? So it's just us taking accountability to say, what are we going to do different? How are we going to move forward? Greg is standing up saying, hey, I'm going to take this on and I'm going to teach other men how to be healthy in a relationship. I'm committed to singles and to couples, really helping them heal. Dr. Patricia, she is committed to empowering women, and I'm sure helping them heal and knowing their self-worth and all of these different things. And we have to do that same thing in our households, to our daughters, to our sons, to our nieces, to our nephews, to our sisters. And just like Greg was saying, even to our friends, that we have to have integrity. When we see that something is wrong, we got to stand up for it, because integrity is, I'll do the right thing, even if someone is not looking, and I know I could get away with it.
That's true.
Sure.
Absolutely. No lies told. Yes, for sure. So I know we're running low on time, so I'm just going to ask a couple more questions. Again, I want the audience to chime in with your questions if you have any. I do want to know about moving away from toxic relationships, because that's got to be very difficult. We talked about at this point you're in love, you're in it, and a lot of the things that you disregarded are starting to really, really bubble up now. What sort of epiphany or mindset change needs to happen as you leave a toxic relationship? What do you need to be prepared for mentally to really do that, or feel worthy enough to do it even? And then on the other side, how do you come, Greg, to the understanding of your role, of what you're doing, and then get to the point that you want to make a change to that perpetrator lifestyle? Like, I want to hear from both sides of that. What does that mindset shift look like in making that change, coming out of that toxic relationship?
Well, I mean, I think that, first and foremost, you have to have two willing people. And Dr. Michelle, Dr. Patricia, I'm sure you both know that. At one point, I wasn't willing, in relationships, people wanted to talk, and it was just nagging. You'll be talking, and the man's like, "You nagging me," or other words. But I do know this. Sometimes you can be in a relationship and it can be looked at on the outside as toxic, but we just lack the knowledge and the know-how, and to be able to say, hey, you know what? We need some good counseling. We need therapy, because everything isn't toxic is defined as harmful, poisonous. So the word is, we use it a lot now, but every relationship that has problems isn't toxic. They're just lacking a Dr. Patricia or Dr. Michelle, or someone to give them some good guidance, and two willing people willing to take the advice and willing to make the the steps forward into doing it. As far as myself, I have a daughter. She's 19. She's the love of my life. And I just realized like what Dr. Patricia was saying. You damage people. You damage. You become a toxic person. You hurt not only women that you love, that you're in a relationship with, but you also hurt those who look up to you. I wanted to be a better example as a father for my daughter. I wanted to be a better son for my mother. I wanted to be a better brother for my sisters, because I was failing all the way around. Because what example am I showing to them if I'm running around and I'm being this player or this single, bachelor, living in the sky, it's like, hey, it's no self-worth there. But the transition is just a want. And I think for men, like Dr. Michelle was saying, we're taught, hey, you fall, you don't cry. Hey, you don't do this. Hey, you don't you can't hug another guy because that means you're soft or you may like him. Like, it's all of these stigmas and all of these different things that we deal with. So then when a woman comes to us and she wants us to be soft, it's like, hold up, how? Dr. Michelle had many sessions with her where it was, her trying to, I come from a long line of hustlers. My grandfather's 60-year pimp to this day. My father hustled, it's like I hustled before I went into music. So, I come from a real gangster, side of life and past. And it's hard to break down those walls to be able to say, hey, you're not supposed to be a gangster at home with your lady. You're not supposed to be this hard, militant guy with your lady. We're supposed to come home and be able to melt like butter because we trust you, because we believe you're my queen. I can lay there, my lioness can rub on me and make me feel like I'm at home. I don't have to worry about anything else. So a lot with men it's just coming down to wanting it and not believing that you're achieving something by sleeping with everyone. You know what I mean? You achieve something by having peace, having love, having a woman that is going to stand beside you and behind you, and you in front of her and beside her and behind her when you need to support her through anything. Because most of those women you sleeping with, it's nothing there, and you're not doing anything for them. They're not doing anything for you. You just have to find your self-worth and realize, like Dr. Michelle told me, like, it was like, I look at the women like, man, they nothing. You know what I mean? Because look at her, she's sleeping with everybody. I had to realize you nothing. You sleeping with everybody. You don't have no worth. You don't respect yourself. You don't think you value anything. So, I think for men, a lot of us want to get there. I think that, the scales are very unbalanced right now because as we were speaking to Dr. Patricia, it's very unbalanced, and women policing their own and men policing their own and say, hey, let's step up and be better. And we're losing a generation right now because of it. But to get where I'm at, it's just a want. It's just say, hey, I don't care what anybody thinks. I know who I am. I know that I'm strong. I know that I'm a leader. I know that I'm a Black man and I have to be a better leader. And I'm not leading right if I'm getting my young brothers killed or getting my young brothers locked up or leaving my woman, at home to speak to me through glass or come put flowers on my grave. That's not the way that I should be living. It's a better way than what we're doing. And we have to change that, you know what I mean? And we have to want that. And a lot of us do. Because when you're hustling in the streets, the first thing you're thinking is, man, once I get this amount of money, I'm going to be able to do this for my lady and buy a home, this and that. But most of us don't get there. Most of us get incarcerated. Most of us get put in a box. Most of us lose our lady. Most of us have a child and you bring more trauma into, more, you bring something else into your already toxic situation. But you just have to want it. That's all it was for me. It was just like, hey, I want to be better. I want to be married. I want somebody who's going to be with me for the rest of my life. I don't want everybody to have had Greg. You know what I mean? I want one person to be able to have Greg, and that's it. And, and once men realize that, and once women realize that, hey, we don't have to sleep with all the ballers or the popular guys, you'll get a balance, but you just have to want it. And I believe a lot of guys do. A lot of guys that I talk to who are real dudes, they like, hey, be like, which is my nickname. They're like, B, I want to, what you doing, man, it's got me thinking different. I've been thinking the same thing. I don't want to lose my lady, so, it's there. You just have to want it and choose it and seek help. If your relationship is breaking down, everything isn't breakup. Everything isn't, oh, they make me sick or he's not good or she's not good. Sometimes you just have to pick up the phone, call Dr. Patricia, call Dr. Michelle and say, hey, can you talk to us and help you realize that the relationship is salvageable or not? It's you're gonna find it out. Sometimes we can't fix it. We need help. You know what I mean? Sometimes, Jesus, Moses, David, Paul, they prayed to somebody because they couldn't fix it. They needed help. So if they needed help, of course we do. You know what I mean? It's impossible not to.
Yes, yes. And if I could just chime in about how do you walk away from a toxic relationship? if we think about the society we live in, the culture, when it comes to trauma, the question you just asked, a lot of African American, brown and Black girls, women, sometimes we associate trauma with, I'm a strong Black woman. So we stay in toxic relationships because we want this honor, this badge of being strong. But I just cringe in my spirit when I hear some ladies say, I'm a strong woman. But some women are so strong, they don't know how to be weak. And so just because you take verbal abuse or mental abuse, physical abuse, does not make you strong. So if you want to walk out of a toxic relationship, you really have to know what you deserve. And I don't know who said it, but a lot of times growing up, we have not seen what a great relationship looks like. That's why it's up to us to write what we want. So my husband, we've been married 32 years.
Oh,
And
yes.
I know it's only by the goodness of God. There were several times that I had to remind him, I'm not your mother. And the reason I said that was because his mother put up with things from his father. And so I had to remind him who I was. And when I reminded him, he didn't have a problem correcting it. And as Greg said, every relationship is not toxic. So you just have to know, is this what I want? So if this is the person you want and two people are willing to work it out, then that trauma is something else. But I'm gonna stop.
Well, I am going to have to be jumping off very soon, but I did want to just leave with just a testament to definitely that every relationship is not toxic. Sometimes we act toxic, but that doesn't mean that we throw the relationship away. I think the difference is when you are consistently or intentionally doing something to someone, whether it's from a place of hurt, because hurt people do hurt people, or it's from a place of wrong intentions, being manipulative, maybe narcissistic behavior, whatever the case may be. But sometimes relationships may just need help, but you got to be vulnerable to even ask for help, because that's what vulnerability is. And I would also just like to say, just, as a personal testament, that I was in a abusive relationship. My parents did not raise me like that at all. I've never seen my father hit my mother or anything. And if you knew my mother, that wasn't going down anyway. So I never seen that though. I did see some type of unhealthiness in my family, but not with my immediate, family, my mother and my father. So I was that good girl, grew up in the church, mother's a preacher, all of that, right? But there's predators out there, so I definitely met a Greg for sure, NFL player, all of that, and it wasn't even the money thing that I was attracted to, because we had a good life, in terms of my family. But he knew that I was in the church. So what did he do? He went ahead and he started going to church, start showing up in Wednesday Bible study, Sunday morning, Sunday night, until I would turn around and say, okay, I'll go out on one date with you. And that date ended up being a marriage. And then, ended up that he was definitely on drugs. And then it ended up where, one day I woke up and I had 2 black eyes and, a fractured leg and all of that. So I was in shock because, for one, no one had never had a conversation to me about how sometimes, a person that's toxic can be so sly, and know that their motive is to divide and conquer. And it also has to do with age too, because sometimes we just don't have that experience, to know certain things. So sometimes we just learn. And unfortunately, it's the hard way, But I will say this, I did not stay. You had that one time to where I woke up like that, and that was it for me. I left and it was over. But I was damaged after that. And I had to do a lot of self-work on myself. And I had to be accountable for why that happened. Why was I even triggered? Why did I, choose him as well as a husband? And I had to be honest. And it was because even though my father never did anything physically abusive at all, however, he was emotionally unavailable. He didn't know how to really say, I love you. And he wasn't touchy-feely. I was the kind of child that I needed the hugs, the kisses, the everything. And he didn't really know how to give that. He told me at some point, he said, I felt very uncomfortable. I didn't know how to do that. And because I didn't see that, I was needing that. I was craving that. And because that predator saw that that's what it was, he presented himself as emotionally available, as vulnerable. And I want to be honest. I want to tell the truth all the time and blah, blah, blah. And that was the way that my ear began to listen, because that part of me was a hole in my heart that was not healed. That's why I want to tell everybody, take the accountability for yourself. Look within, and the things that you need to heal and that you need to work on, do the work before you even get into a relationship with someone else. It's so much easier when you just do the work and nobody's there, because then you got all kinds of other things that you have to worry about that just come with being married and come with, running a household and so forth. And lastly, I wrote a book called The Self Vows, and I'm so committed to that because I had to take my self vows. I had to have and to hold from this day forward. I had to have myself for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health. And as a cancer survivor and currently going through an illness presently right now, I haven't even known what pain doesn't feel like in 20 years. So I had to really commit to in sickness and in health. Michelle, I'm rocking with you no matter what. I am here for the long haul. To death do I part, as long as I shall live. I had to do that before I really extended those vows to someone else. So I just wanted to leave your audience with that. Thank you so much, Dr. Patricia, for being on the panel. Definitely, it was a blessing. And of course, Greg, phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing and being transparent, and thank you to the originator of Woke Wednesday, and for just doing this. We need more of this. We need more of these conversations. And I thank you for your courage and asking me to be a part. So thank you. Thank you so much. And if you want to, if anybody that's listening, you can always find me on IG at Michelle_R_Hannah, HANNAH, or at info@Michelle_R_Hannah. Thank you so much, you all. It's been a really, really blessing.
Yes, you were a blessing to this conversation. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Michelle. We definitely got to get up again, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. You guys have a good one.
You as well. We're going to continue on just a little bit. I don't want to keep you all night, Greg and Dr. Patricia, but I do have another question, to be honest. because we touched on it a little bit, but because I had asked, how do we get out? What does that mindset take? What does that look like? But you also reminded me that sometimes you don't have to leave. Sometimes there are just pieces of the relationship that are broken that can be fixed. And so, what do you do in those cases? First of all, how do you know? I think you said, both people have to be willing. So maybe that's part of it. But what do you do in those cases where, maybe it's not time to leave, but it's time to really hunker down and figure out how to repair and make a healthy relationship out of what you have?
Dr. Patricia, you got this?
Okay.
You
Well,
look like you
I
were laying
think,
in there, so.
oh yes, yes. I think something else in the Black and Brown community is we look down on therapy, coaching, all of those things. Not everyone, but most people look down on that. My husband and I, we went to counseling, whatever you want to call it, and we went to marriage retreats and all of these different things. And I know for a fact that it helped us. And that's why we are here 32 years later. A lot of times people think they can fix things without outside intervention. But a lot of times we need this outside intervention because someone else can see something that you may not be able to see. And one thing about me as a relationship coach, I do not give advice. As a coach, I actually ask my clients questions, powerful questions that lead them to discover something that aligns with them. One thing I've learned when it comes to giving advice, most people don't take advice. But when they discover something about that relationship, they take action. So that's what I do. And that's how I help the single women and the couples that I work with. I don't give them advice from my 32 years of marriage because they don't need that. They need to discover what aligns with them so that they can take action.
I agree. I 100% agree. I believe in Dr. Michelle's book, she speaks about healthy relationships, and she says you have to have two healthy individuals. You can't have one person that's healthy and another person that's unhealthy because it'll make the entire relationship unhealthy. You have to have two healthy individuals, not one. It's impossible. And I believe it starts there. If it's still health in the relationship and it's still two people, as we were saying earlier, that are willing, then you look to coaching or look to therapy. I think we all know someone who thought they were a plumber when the pipe started leaking and they tried to fix it themselves and they end up making things worse. That can happen in your relationship. You know what I mean? You think you can fix something or think time is going to fix it or it's just going to go away. It's just going to keep leaking and dripping, and eventually you have to replace the floor or the roof. So you step out and you get a professional plumber. Or if you want your hair done right, you go to a professional beautician. Or you go and you find your professional mechanic. So it's the same thing. If you want your relationship to be right, you go find someone that could possibly help you. And it may not be the first person that you go to. It may not be the second. You know what I mean? But you'll find the right fit for you and for the person that you love if you two are willing to take those steps. You know what I mean? I think that, and I believe that, yes, there are relationships that we know, as Dr. Michelle spoke on and Dr. Patricia spoke on just a toxic, abusive relationship. And you have to leave those relationships. I believe leaving immediately. You know what I mean? But in those situations where you just have, relationship problems or issues that, you haven't found the proper way to try to move past or to resolve them. I saw a meme and it said, do you want comfort? They said in a relationship, they said the easiest thing they did for the relationship was saying, hey, do you want comfort or do you want a solution? That solves so much. Do you want comfort or solution? If we have an issue and I said, do you want comfort or solution? I know exactly, okay, either you want me to hold you or you need me to do this or you need me to go and solve something for you. It stops that friction, you know what I mean? But sometimes it's just that simple. And sometimes it takes an outside third person. It takes a coach to help you to see what's already there or help you see your differences or see how you agree on certain things or how you can find a medium. But a relationship is, you know, is some you have to go, and some, you know, it's like, hey, we just can't fix it. Let's find someone to help us fix it. Just find your professional. You know, that's it.
Yes.
I think.
Very good.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing all of what you shared today. I mean, I'm just so full over the information that you offer. I think, you know, we have our own thoughts and feelings about relationships and things like that, but it's a little different when you talk to somebody that actually studies it, that actually has these experiences, that actually lives this as a part of their career. And like you said, has a way to be able to help us. And so I know I was blessed in the conversation. I know so many other people either watching live or that will watch on my new YouTube channel, or or
Yeah, but
later, right, or later on Facebook, wherever you get this information. If you found it valuable, if you know somebody that needs a word, like needs this word, let them tune in, because like I said, I learned so much, and we don't know everything. Let's not pretend like that we do. And that's why I have these conversations with people that know a little bit more than we do about these topics, and that can share with us so that we can learn and grow. Because isn't that all what it's all about?
Yes.
At the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
that's all. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. So before we end, I do want to give you an opportunity to just tell us a little bit about your platforms, what your goals are for it and what you have coming up.
All right. Well, I'm Dr. Patricia Shaw, and as I stated earlier, I am a Christian relationship coach, and I help my clients to move beyond the past so that they can have the future. And um, it's in the relationships. You can connect with me on Facebook, Women of Excellence, or Instagram. I am the Soul Ties Coach. I am a speaker, author, and a relationship coach. And I have enjoyed being here.
Thank you so much. And what's the title of your book?
The first one, Soul Ties, Unchained My Heart.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Very nice. Greg, how about you?
Okay. Well, first of all, Dr. Patricia, thank you so much. You've truly enlightened me tonight. I am full as well on this woke day. As I stated earlier, my name is Greg. Yeah, I got you. I am a transparency coach, and I coach men into becoming better individuals and being more present and fully embracing love. I'll be coming out with a platform by the end of the year to help men and to become better in healthy relationships and to recognize the importance of that. And I'll be taking new clients in May. You can reach me at Greg is Speaking. That's GREGIS Speaking, SPEAKING. Or you can reach me at gregispeaking@gmail.com. That is a new page. A lot of people who are probably following know me by Betty Grind, which is on the live. You also can reach me there for now. But if you're interested, or your man is interested, or your brother, and they need help with becoming more transparent and vulnerable, or just finding themselves, I'm here to help. And ladies, I'm always here for you as well, to give you maybe a closer perspective. I can't hate on you, man, but I can give you a good perspective, a good perspective on maybe understanding the way he may be thinking, or why he's not opening up, or why he's not able to be as vulnerable as you would like him to be. So, I'm here, but I've truly enjoyed myself. I am very full from listening to and being a part, tonight. I thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
Yes, the same. I'm one of these people I'm a knowledge junkie, and someone that is just like ravenous for information and for knowledge. And so I leave these conversations just blown away by what I hear. And it never ceases to amaze me, the level of expertise and the level of talent that we have to share. And I'm so glad that we get to share it for us and from our perspective, because that's important too. That's
Yes,
yeah.
yes, indeed. One more tidbit, I'm sorry, before we hop off.
Yeah.
In my book,
Yes.
Love is the Agenda, will be
All
out by
right.
Love is the Agenda, and it's definitely from it's the point of view you all want to know. But Love is the
All
Agenda is
right.
in the editing stages, and it should be out by the end of the summer or early fall.
Okay.
Yes, indeed. Sorry about that. I couldn't let that go.
No, not at all.
Great.
I'm glad you got that in there because we definitely want to be watching out for that by the end of the summer, you said.
Yes, indeed. Love is the Agenda, isn't it? Yes, indeed.
Yes, let us know so we can help you put that out there too.
I will. I appreciate it.
Available. But listen, thank you so much. My last question for the audience, tell us, what is your final message to viewers on this topic of toxic relationships and getting to a place of self-love?
Ladies.
What is the, I'm sorry, repeat that.
Final message, any final words you have for everybody that's here with us? Any final
A lot of times on LinkedIn, I like to say, show up as the deliciously bold woman of faith you are. And sometimes life has a way of throwing us curveballs. But when we learn how to take those balls and throw them back in the atmosphere, in the stratosphere, whatever, we can show up as the deliciously bold women of faith we are, just taking off those things that happened to us years ago. So that's what I want the ladies who are watching. Show up for yourself because you were created to be great.
I am so emotional right now.
True. That is
Thank
true.
you for that word, Dr. Patricia. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Yes, indeed. I just say this: forgive. You know, it's forgive, and you're not doing that so much for the person that you're forgiving. You're doing it for yourself. I think a lot of people we deal with that, and we bring that into a lot of our relationships, which cause those new relationships to become toxic because we're dragging along this unforgiveness and this bitterness and this resentment and this hate into life, into our jobs, into our family, into our love. And just forgive. Take your time with yourself. As I said earlier, police yourself, police your special part, and start to
Yes.
give it time and give the relationship time, because we don't know a person in a month, in 3 months, in 6 months.
Yes,
I think that
yes.
we would change the trajectory of things and in relationships and in your life if you just start to be patient. You're gonna lose some people, but those people that you lose, they're not supposed to be there, because the person that wants to be there, they're gonna be there for you and not what's inside of you. You know what I mean? So love yourself, be proud of you. Understand that the past that we've been through, it is the past, and we are in the present. We need to be present because the past is there and we can't do anything about it, but in the present, we can make our future better. You know what I mean? So it's gonna be there, and if you can't get past your past or you're struggling with it, get some help, you know, but love yourself and forgive, man. Forgive yourself, look in the mirror and say, I love you. And, you know, we've been through what we've been through, and the past is there, but we are present now. In the present, we're going to make a better future because that is what we can control.
Yes.
Whew.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you both. Sorry for keeping you a little bit later than I anticipated, but we needed every word that you shared tonight. You're so gracious in your messages, and I plan to keep in touch with both of you. Please let me know if you ever do need anything from me. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Good night.